topic, the increasing fees. That's never a popular topic, and we hope to run through a presentation that will help everyone understand what the needs are. We have a few people with us from the Public Works Department. I'm Lynn Brooks. I'm the Assistant Director of the Operations Division. We have Chuck McGee on the line, Lisa Streeter, Tony Bonanno, and Brandon Fontes. So between all of us, we hope to answer the questions that you guys have. This meeting is being recorded, so everyone knows that, so that we can share it with others that might not have been able to tune in. So I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. So the topic is the costs and impacts of state legislation SB 1383. SB 1383 is state climate change legislation that was finalized in November 2020. The requirements of 1383 is to reduce the disposal or landfilling of organics by 50% by 2022 and 75% by 2025. The state estimates that 40% of material currently disposed at landfills is organic. And by organic, we're talking about grass, brush, food, trees, paper, cardboard, etc. The county goal was to produce an implementation plan that meets the requirements of this legislation and coordinates with the incorporated cities that is cost effective, land use fees, our gate fees, bin fees, hauling costs, balancing facility costs, hauling costs, and our customer needs, and is simple and easy to use. Implementation. We need to separate the organics from the rest of the waste stream. And we intend to do that by expanding the 3-container system. So depending on where you live, you may have a gray, black, or tan can for your garbage, a green can for your grass, brush, and food waste, blue for the recyclables. There may be some limited 1-container systems that all waste will be in a single container, and it will require additional processing. The first step is collection. Residential and commercial source separated in 3 containers in our universal collection areas. That is universal collection to us is mandated collection. It is on your tax roll. The gray and black tan will go to the landfill to be disposed of. The green will be sent to a compost processing facility. Blue materials will be recycled at a materials recovery facility. Transportation. So the gray, black, or tan, your garbage can, disposal facility will remain unchanged, and that is covered by the land use fee, a gate fee, or a bin fee. The green waste will be accepted at the same facility, and the county will process it. It's expensive to process all these materials. That is covered by your land use fee or the gate fee or the bin fee. And blue, the recyclables. The blue container materials require further processing at private facilities, and if you are in a universal collection area, it is covered by your garbage hauler fee. Reprocessing. The gray, black, or tan container is transported to the county facility for disposal, but our new legislation limits what can be placed in that container. We'll get to that a little bit more later. Step 3, the processing. A green container is grass, brush, food waste. It will continue to be accepted at all county facilities, and we intend to construct a compost facility that will hopefully open in 2023. Mount Vernon, operated by the city of Bakersfield, is in operation, and it is operated in agreement with the county of Kern. And the important thing about compost is, as long as it's clean, it is marketable. Dirty compost is not marketable. Step 3, processing. The blue container material, the recyclables, material collected by the franchise hauler, and it's processed at non-county owned facilities. If you bring your waste to a landfill or transfer station, the county does process those materials. We have some collection and processing challenges, multifamily and commercial services. Multi-bins have space constraints, and they have high contamination of all the containers. We need more education to get people to do the correct thing, but we also will need some new technologies. So as we looked at this, how to process organic waste, we began in 2018 knowing that SB 1383 was coming. So we distributed a request for proposals or statements of interest. We reviewed those proposals and selected the top 3 proposals for further investigation. We did field inspections and site visits in 20 and 21 and evaluated the systems. The system costs varied, 20 million to 100 million. The 20 million cost is the base cost for a system, and of course you have ongoing costs and labor costs with all of these. I just want to mention briefly that edible food recovery is a part of the 1383 legislation, and Public Works is working in cooperation with public health and other local jurisdictions to meet these mandates. We try not to eat the food that comes to us because we need public health officials to handle edible foods. So how do we fund our waste system? We have these things that you see on your screen. We have franchise hauling fees. That gets your garbage from your house or your business to the landfill. We have land use fees, gate fees, bin fees. We have a small amount of grants and a small amount of recycling revenues. So I wanted to explain also what the land use fee, if you've logged on, you probably know, but there's a lot of people that don't know what the land use fee is. It is assessed on all habitable, inhabited, really residential parcels countywide. If you have a vacant property, you can request a waiver. And how is it collected? It's on the property tax bill. And how do we use it? We use it for the disposal and diversion of most household waste and household hazardous waste. It is for the construction, maintenance, and operation of all county-owned waste facilities, all the administrative costs associated with state reporting and permitting of county-owned waste facilities, and we also assist the incorporated cities with their state mandates. Words that we use a lot that may not be common to everyone is disposal and diversion. When we talk about disposal, those are items to be landfilled. Diversion is removal of those items from the waste stream that aren't to be landfilled. That is your grass, brush, food, cardboard, appliances, tires, electronics, metals, mattresses, carpet, glass, plastic, paper, concrete, and wood. And the important thing about that is that, landfilling is the cheapest thing to do. Once you have to handle these items and pull them out of the waste stream and transport them to somewhere else and then process them somewhere else, it becomes expensive. And that's what we're looking at now. So here's the history of the land use fee. It was first adopted in 1989, and it started out at $27.50 a year. In 91 went to 57, 2004 66, 2007 70, and 2012 it went to 82.89 per year. And that held until July of 2021 when we went to 105 a year. That additional fee of $22.11 really wasn't anything to do specifically about landfills, as we know. As most of you may know, it had to do with the illegal dumping problem that we have here. And so in July of 2022, we're proposing 180. And why are we doing that? we've listed, and I'm not going to read them to you. I'll make this PowerPoint available for anybody that wants it. But there have been quite a number of legislative impacts to the land use fee, and I've listed a few of them here and then on the next slide. And SB 1383 is the last one that I have listed on the slide, and it is probably one of the more expensive, maybe the most expensive legislation that has come down. So what do we need to do to remain compliant? We need to construct a compost facility at the Shafter Wasco landfill. We need to improve processing facilities at our existing county sites. And these are not all of the things we need to do. These were some major things. We need to create self-haul facilities at Bena and Shafter, mainly because a lot of the self-haulers just go to the face of the landfill, and they, you know, in the future, we will not be allowed to just let them put whatever they want in the landfill. So we're going to have to redirect them to a self-haul facility where the diversion is mandated. We need to construct a new transfer station at the Tehachapi landfill. The Tehachapi landfill is almost full. We've had an increased cost at the Mount Vernon compost facility. It used to be $5 million a year. It's gone up to $7.5 million a year. Composting can get expensive. We need new equipment for processing all of this waste, and we're estimating about $3 million a year. A new technology to process organic waste, $30 million a year. And we need to continue site maintenance at all facilities, scales, gatehouse, roads, fencing, and our landfills don't last forever, so we're continually having to, build more modules. So how are we going to manage the financial impacts of this legislation? We are striving for a cost-effective solution to balance the land use fee and the hauling costs. The land use fee currently is $8.75 a month, and we're proposing to go to $15 a month. The gate fees will increase and the bin fees will increase. And the franchise hauling costs will more than likely increase, and we are currently negotiating that with the franchise haulers. Knowing that increased fees are very unpopular, we said, well, what can we do? What can we do to keep these numbers down? So we looked at operating just 3 regional facilities. Right now we have 7 landfills and 7 transfer stations. So we could just have Shafter, Bena, and Mojave open. We could close all our transfer stations and the Boron landfill, Taft landfill, Tehachapi landfill, and the Ridgecrest landfill. We could close all our household hazardous waste facilities and search for other options for folks to dispose of their hazardous waste. And we could eliminate that $22.11, that illegal dumping surcharge. The problem with those things is that we do feel that it would dramatically increase our hauling costs. Currently, let's say that you live in Taft and the Taft landfill's closed, then the hauler there will have to take the waste to Shafter, and of course he's going to want more money to do that. We think that if our residents don't have access to landfills and transfer stations, that illegal dumping will increase. It's bad enough now. It'll probably get worse. We will have dramatic impacts to the self-haulers and residents and businesses, folks that come to the landfills. If you only have your 3 choices instead of 14, it's you got to go a lot further. And overall negative environmental impacts. So what are the consequences of non-compliance? There can be fines. Jurisdictions can be fined for non-compliance with the regulations. Cal Recycle can issue compliance orders with specific requirements that must be implemented regardless of cost or practicality. You can have revocation of use. Non-compliant facilities can be removed from the list of acceptable facilities under 1383, and permits can be revoked if facilities fail to meet the state standards for operations. Luckily for us, SB 619 was passed that allows jurisdictions to submit a notification of intent to comply to CalRecycle for potential waiver of administrative civil penalties related to 1383 violations. It doesn't change the compliance date of January 1, 2022, but if you fail to adhere to your proposed actions and timeline, the CalRecycle may revoke the approval and retroactively impose the penalties for violations that occurred in 2022. What's next? So Public Works reviewed all of our options, and which balanced the facility costs, hauling costs, and customer needs, and decided to proceed with the 218 process to increase the land use fee to $180 a year. Of course, the Board of Supervisors has to approve that. A public hearing will be held on January 4th at 2 p.m. And I put the address here. It's on your mailer as well. And also, if you disagree, written protests must be mailed to the Board of Supervisors. And you need to include the owner's name, address, the parcel number, and sign it for that protest to count. So this is a protest hearing. To mandate that it does not pass, we need 50% plus one no votes protests to mandate that this does not pass. So I am going to open this up to questions for the group. And I'm going to ask that if you raise your hand, you should see a little hand thing. And then I'll call on you and you can unmute yourself and we'll kind of go like that. Okay. I see Steve Townsend. Why don't you unmute yourself? You were the first one that came up and we'll try to answer the questions.
Okay, yeah, so several things on here that did not seem to be optimal. One is the placing of fees on the property tax bills at all. It seems far more appropriate and would correlate the volume and type of trash managed by placing that on the trash bills themselves. If you place it on the property tax bill, you disconnect any fee or cost of the garbage from the garbage, and you also charge that to, in the case of rental property, to people who may not even, may not be in the city, may not even be in the county, as opposed to people who are actually using the services. There's nothing that you've mentioned about assessing any of these trash fees to commercial parcels. The consumer price index mentioned is for the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim area. Why is the Bakersfield consumer price index not being used? That's the consumer price index within the same county as the one doing the assessing, and not a very different economic region right along the beach. And one option you didn't mention in your list of options was lobbying for repeal of the SB 1353.
Okay, are those all your questions? Because I'm going to try to answer them in the order that I think I heard them.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. And does this count as protesting to the fee, or does that have to be in writing also?
Has to be a written protest. This is just an informational public meeting to try to answer questions. So if you want to send a protest in, you need to write that you're protesting. It doesn't have to be elaborate. You don't have to give reasons. You can just say I'm against it, and write down your address or your parcel number and sign it.
Okay.
So I wanted to answer, we talked about we weren't assessing commercial. We are raising the gate fees and the bin fees, and that answers the, so it is an increase across the board. This meeting is particular. We already had a meeting about bin fees and for commercial entities. So this is specifically for residential parcels, land use fee. And then let me speak to it being on the tax roll as opposed to your garbage bill. Your collection fees, the hauling costs are also on the tax bill if you are in a universal collection area. If you subscribe to service on your own, you're not in a universal collection area, then you pay your hauler directly. But some point in time, some years ago, it's been on the tax bill since 1989, the land use fee, and those decisions were made way before me, so it is on there. So that's why it remains on there. And I'm going to let Lisa Schroeder speak to the CPI and the index that we use.
Yeah, and that's the Bureau of Labor Statistics only has a certain number of series IDs for the Consumer Price Index. They have a regional one for the Western United States. They have one for the state of California. And the only region that's included that's anywhere near us in the state of California is actually the one for Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Anaheim. So there is no such thing, unfortunately, as a Bakersfield CPI, so that's why we use that one.
I found the Bakersfield on the web just looking today.
Did you get it from the? Yeah, you might have found one for Bakersfield, but it's not put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
I'll check and I'll get back to you. And on the thing with the bin fees, that's essentially what I was saying. You should charge the trash component. If you were treating residential and commercial the same, you'd be assessing their property values, not bin fees. You should assess bin fees, and you should assess the, however you do it, the number of units or the gallons or whatever, but not the property tax value for residential.
It's not based on, it's not a percentage of your property value. It's a flat, it's not a tax, it's a fee. So you get that?
And also, I'm not on computer, so I need to speak right after because I don't know how to do that. I'm on the phone.
Okay, hang on one second. Steve, you're unmuted now. So the question again is why is it on the tax bill for residential and not commercial?
Yeah, the fee or whatever it is should be on the garbage bill. And I did get Bakersfield from Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's bls.gov/regions West California HTM, and then you've got geographic region Western California Bakersfield. The list of the California list: Bakersfield, Chico, El Centro, Fresno, Hanford, in Los Angeles, Anaheim, Santa Ana, Irvine, Los Angeles, Long Beach, Glendale, then Madera, Merced, Modesto, Napa, and Oxnard.
Yeah, we can definitely look into that.
It definitely should be the Bakersfield because that's the only location on the list from Bureau of Labor Statistics that's in Kern County.
And to answer your question about commercial versus residential, so does every residential parcel have the exact amount of garbage? They don't, but we issue everyone a 96-gallon can, and so it's based on what the average family does. It'd be very difficult to assess garbage from an average business. You have huge businesses, you have small businesses, and they subscribe to the service level that they need. Maybe they need a 3-yard bin once a week, and other ones need a 6-yard bin 5 times a week, and so that's why the bin fees are going up, at the same, rate as the land use fee, so that they pay for the service that they subscribe at the higher rate. It is associated with the gate fees too. So the gate fees are going up, the bin fees are going up, the land use fees going up unless it's voted down by the board. So we got a lot of people want to speak. I'm going to move on to the next person that I see, Mr. Burton. You've been on patiently So can you unmute yourself?
Absolutely. Actually, he had asked a couple of questions. The CPI one was one that I had a big question about. The other question I have is there's a 5-year moratorium on protesting this. What's the deal with that? We can't protest these increases every year because it looks like it's giving a 5-year free range for the land use fee to go up. That's one of them. The other thing is that there's in the flyer that you sent out, it says that the land use fee is more thoroughly described in the written report, but the written report's not available online. You have to contact somebody. It reminded me of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy a little bit there, where I don't know if you're familiar with that, where it was on display at the bottom of a locked filing cabinet, you know, stuck in a disused laboratory with a sign on the door saying, "Beware of the leopard." That's a joke. Yeah, that was my question. Why is it not the written report that's mentioned here? Why is that not available online?
It is on the Board of Supervisors website.
Okay. And you answered a little bit, but I would like to know what's the percentage of administrative to actual public works that this is going towards? The percentage of the costs between the two. You know, you mentioned that there were, you know, millions of dollars worth of projects that need to be done, but all I saw on the flyer was that it was going for basically more bureaucracy, it looked like to me. And I think that was...
Well, all I can say is that, you know, we've done forecasting, cost forecasting. Our budget is online at the county website, and you can see that operating, when you go on there, you can see that operating 7 landfills and 7 transfer stations is extremely costly. And then when you have to incorporate all this diversion of, you know, food at all of these sites and green waste and get down to, you know, these numbers, it's going to be extremely labor intensive. There's going to be a lot of equipment involved and a lot of technologies involved to try to get to these numbers that the state is asking for. And we're not going to get there. I'll tell you, we're not going to get there, but we got to try. Otherwise, we'll be really nailed for not, you know, trying. So we're trying to do it in the least costly way. I know it doesn't feel that way. And if the people of Kern County don't want to pay for it, then what we need to do is cut the number of facilities we have, because when you operate, you know, facilities 7 days a week, and we haven't found another facility in the state that's operated on Sunday. And we operate on Sundays and we try to make it, and yet we still have this huge illegal dumping problem. But, you know, we offer high level of areas and services, and if people don't want to pay for it, then we need to look at doing something different. We still are going to have to go up, but we wouldn't have to go up as much. But that's the problem.
Yeah, the other question I have is, how effective has that illegal dumping fee been?
Well, we haven't collected. The December 10th is when the property taxes are due, so we haven't seen a dime yet, and okay. So that's why you haven't seen much effect from it, because it was on the property taxes that went out this fall, and they are to be turned in sometime in December.
Okay. So, I think I had one, actually, this is just a comment. I noticed, I did a little bit of research on the uncollected recycling fees that the state of California collects, that the state of California pays out. In other words, that's paid in, but it's not refunded to the consumers. I don't understand why they made this. It seems like it's an unfunded mandate by the state. Is that true?
I'm going to let Chuck McGee speak to that. Chuck, can you unmute yourself?
That is very well said. These are mandates from the state. That set of regulations is being forced on everybody, but it's not being funded by the state. It's being funded by the participants in the jurisdictions. The question you asked about the uncollected CRV value, really,
Right.
is what we're talking about. That has been historic for many, many years, that they collect a lot more CRV than is claimed, and that has to do with people not recycling those products, and it ended up in a trash can and being buried. So that money that goes into that is sent back to the jurisdictions proportionally by population to purchase other equipment to try to increase the amount of CRVs that are being redeemed.
Okay, so
It'll
not
drop
just
off
limited
boxes,
budget.
things like that. It doesn't make a huge amount of money to the county on a yearly basis, but they do make it available. And that's what pays for things like the drop-off containers and things like that that we put out.
Okay. I was just, that seemed like that would be a good source of funding for something like this.
And it is, and like I said, they do give us that money. That money does go back out throughout the state, but compared to the cost of implementing the organics regulations, it's a fraction in the small, like 1%. It's not as much as we would hope. LA and places like that, the much bigger ones, get a lot more money than we do based on because it's based on population.
And if I can make just one more comment, it's organic waste. Why can't you just put it in the landfill? It doesn't make any sense to me.
That is the entire regulation that is laid out there in all 127 pages of it. And they couch it off of the fact that they believe landfills are a higher polluter than other things that they can force to be done, so that the climate would be better served by not putting it in the landfill. But that is, the regulation is written. It's really not something we got any input on at this point. It was decided by the state legislator and governor and sent down to the state.
And I don't know if you guys know this or not. Did our state assemblyman and state senator, did they vote for or against this?
I don't know if they voted, how they voted on it. No.
Okay. I was trying to find a record of their vote. I just didn't see it. So, all right. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. So the next person I see on my list is Lily. If you can unmute yourself.
Unmuted? Yes.
Yes.
You mentioned dirty organic waste, and I was wondering what makes it dirty.
I don't think I said dirty.
Well, I heard the word dirty. Maybe it wasn't with organic waste.
No, I just said the organic waste is, food and brush and cardboard, paper, that sort of stuff.
Okay. I thought maybe it was a mixed motor oil with your clippings or something.
Yeah, I said dirty compost. When I say dirty compost, I mean contaminated with plastics and metals and that sort of stuff. So if you have clean compost, farmers will take it, other people will take it, but if it has metals and plastics in it, so you have to have a high quality of compost.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ben Dietzel.
That's dual.
I'm sorry.
Why is the largest proportion of the property tax increase?
I'm sorry, sir, you cut out.
Why is the largest amount of property tax increase going to the fewest number of residential unit parcels?
I guess I don't understand the question. It is being assessed, it will be assessed on all habitable residential parcels, and then commercial will pay an increase in the gate fees and their bin fees and that sort of stuff. So I think our prices or our increases were pretty consistent throughout the system.
Your notice states that 1 to 4 residential units per parcel with a current fee of $105 will be raised to $180 and that 5 or more residential units per parcel will go from 84 to 144.
Oh, well, let me explain that. So it is so, obviously 1 to 4, so 1 would pay 180, 2 would pay 360, but I see what you're saying. So when you have 5 or more, those are usually like apartments, 1 and 2 bedrooms, and those folks create a smaller waste. And it's generally more in a confined area. So we have historically charged less for those than single family homes, really.
All right, well, thank you for the clarification. Then I believe what you have communicated is that the fees as represented are per residential unit.
Yes.
All right, thank you. The other issue I have is regarding community service districts. Parcels located in those are paying gate and bin fees as well as parcel fees.
Lisa, can you speak to that?
I'm not aware of any of the CSDs that are paying a gate fee. So I don't know if you have a specific example, maybe we could look it up.
Lynn, I could answer that. This is Tony.
Yes. Thank you, Tony.
Yes, in the CSDs are assessed land use fees for each one of those residential units, and that waste that's going to the landfill is not charged a gate fee. Now the gate fee would come into play if there was a resident from the CSD that came to the landfill and had maybe demolition material. There's certain things that are charged for residents, and so that may be the situation. If you could give me a little bit more detail on why the person was charged, I can give you some more information, sir.
It was my understanding that the transfer containers that come from the CSDs, we do pay gate and bin fees for those.
No, that should not happen. There is the fee is in the hall. There is a hall fee for that through your local hauler.
Okay. I see a Carol Nelson. Are you on the line? If you are, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Owner of the commercial property mixed use, and the property is 80% vacant, and I'm still paying for all these land use fees for 5 years now, until I discovered to itemize my tax bill and to examine which fees are for what. So is there any way to get refunded? I spoke to Lisa Schrader, and in regards to perhaps providing some bills or documents that shows that the property is not in use.
Yes, Lisa, can you speak to that?
Yeah, yes, once again, I think like I mentioned to you before, you have to provide some documentation that shows the properties have not been, the properties have been vacant, and then we can work on getting a refund. So you have to just give us that documentation so we can do that.
Is there any sort of form that I can fill it up in regards to providing the information that you can send, or?
I don't believe we have a form. You can call the phone number that's listed on your tax bill. It's 862-8888, and they will tell you how to proceed with requesting a refund.
Okay. So it's the number on the tax bill in front of the land use fee?
Yeah, 661-862-8888.
Okay, yeah, that's the one. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Crawford, would you unmute yourself and ask your question? You're still muted, sir. Okay, I'll move on to the next one, and then when I see yours go off, I'll come back to you, okay? I see Yuri Savitsky. If you unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, please. I'm in Pine Mountain Club. So we have a transfer site here, and I believe a large portion of our dues, the membership in the club, go for supporting that transfer site. There is a significant staff involved. They do everything, sorting the waste, and as a matter of fact, we don't have trash containers at all. We just don't have them because of the bears. So we take our trash to the transfer site and we are done with it. So are you saying that this increase of fees will affect us as well?
It will increase your land use fee. So what happens in Pine Mountain Club is whoever your hauler is there, they're charging a fee, a transport fee. And so what you put in the bin is covered by the land use fee, the disposal and diversion of that. And then your hauler brings the garbage and charges a fee. So whatever fees Pine Mountain Club is charging is probably for the transport and the use of that bin. Do you is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I see Joe. There's no last name on it, just Joe. So if you're Joe and you have a question, can you unmute yourself? Okay, we'll move on. What about,
Hi, this is Joe. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, Joe.
Yeah, my question was on your flyer, it says if, I'm reading it, says if the majority of those subject to the fee file a written protest, the proposed fee and the land use fee may not be adopted.
Correct.
But then right below it, it says, but since this change is due to a state mandate, further consideration will be required. So does this mean if I file a protest, it still wouldn't matter, I guess, because it's going to be a statewide fee, I guess, or a statewide mandate?
I think what that means, and that's a great question and one that we've struggled with as well. So I think at that point that we would have to make a decision about how we were going to comply, whether it is closing facilities or whether we go to court and find out from a judge, how is it that we stay in compliance in the county of Kern when the residents don't want this? And so we would, if it was imposed, it would be more than likely because a judge imposed it. It's a great question. I don't have 100% of the answer for you, but yes, it is a state mandate and we have to figure a way to comply in order to keep our facilities open. So great question. Not a perfect answer for you.
That's fine. My other question was, they've also imposed those the plastic bag fees like at the grocery store, and they promised in those fees also that it was going to go towards stuff like this where it would minimize the cost for everybody. Do you know if those funds are just not being allocated for this county, or how does that work?
I'm going to let Tony Bonanno talk to this. We are getting some funds, so let Tony speak to that.
As far as additional funds for SB 1383, Lynn?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the state is offering up a grant program right now that is set to be released in about a month that we will be partaking in, and we will probably receive around $500,000 in grant funds. But to give you an idea on how much that would impact us, we're talking about starting up a compost facility for 25 million. And so the state is offering these funds, but they're really not going to pay for much. When we're talking about the plastic bags, that's a very interesting situation. I mean, I don't know where those funds are, whether they stay with the stores or not, but I thought it was always interesting that we've gone from paper to plastic, and now we're back to paper and then just thicker plastic. I thought that was kind of an interesting dynamic in the state. But just to speak, we're going to get about $500,000 to help out with our programs, but it's not very much. It's a fractional portion of what we need for funding.
Got it. My other, I guess, a little bit of trouble that I'm having with this is the fact that the waste is organic. So doesn't it just decompose by itself? Because usually the issue was with stuff that has problems breaking down in the ground. But since it's just like organic material, I just don't understand, I guess, where the pollution happens.
I'll try to. Chuck, you're dying to speak, so go ahead.
No, it's because I agree with you so much. And I understand what you're saying, but this regulation, when this bill went through, it was entitled the Short-Lived Climate Pollutants Organic Waste Reduction. In other words, what they said was putting organic waste into a landfill increased the amount of methane being generated by the landfill, which was impacting the ozone layer and other environmental things throughout the world. And in order to minimize the impact, they wanted to remove all organics from the landfill and have it go through a process that would not produce that level of methane. There will be CO2 offsets and things like that through compost, but this was not an issue about recycling it for the purposes of recycling it. This legislation was passed under the guise of reducing the pollutants generated through the decomposition of organics.
Got it.
That helps.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, it helps clarify, but it's still kind of confusing. The other thing was so the blue containers that they collect from the properties, my understanding was that those go to like a recycling facility, and they're separated. So what happens to the funds from the residential blue containers? Don't those kind of provide some sort of also financial assistance for the landfills to help them subsidize their fees? Because I'd imagine they take those recyclables and they sell them to other manufacturers or other recyclers.
So in the county of Kern, if you live in the county and the franchise hauler owns the blue cart material, and they use that to offset their costs for hauling. If there is some lately, it was a negative for them. In the city of Bakersfield owns those materials, and yes, they do offset the cost. If you bring your recyclables directly to a landfill or transfer station, we do use those funds, and that's what was on my list of how to refund our waste system. And we do get, Chuck, how much a year? About $1 million a year from recycling.
Yeah, it's anywhere between 1 to 2 is what we usually shoot for in that.
Got it. Well, that answered all my questions. Thank you. let's hope they can solve this a better way.
Thank you, sir. The next person I see.
Excuse me, can you see me? Do I have a name, or I don't know? I don't see a name for me.
You just have a phone number, but go ahead. You can be next. I can see you.
Okay, because I was like, I think I was number 5 or 4 or something. Raise my hand. Okay, I'm a real estate investor in California City, and the reason we invested in that area is because we kind of like the property tax the way it was, you know. And what made us want to attend this meeting is because we look at our property in LA County and we're paying $3.51 under land use fee, and then we see that we're paying 105 in Kern County, which is now going to be 180, and we thought, wow, that's a lot. And that's just a statement. But along with what everyone else has been saying, along with what Mr. Burton and the rest have said, if you're going to use this money to improve the converting compost facilities, and it is organic, isn't there a way to generate an income from all that waste and cut down on cost?
There are some technologies out there that do hopefully generate some income and offset the cost, but there's nothing that we've found that is going to take these increases away. I'll speak to your LA thing. I believe, and I can be totally wrong, I'm not an expert on LA. I assume that pays for their administration, and that you pay the hauling fee and the disposal fee are all in one, whether you pay directly to your garbage hauler or what. I know the fees, overall fees, like for example, in the Metro Bakersfield area, we were at about $30 a month all in, and I think in LA it's much more expensive than that. That's a haul and disposal cost here in Bakersfield. Of course, it's going up, and I admit that it is going up. It'll probably be closer to the $40 to $50 range all in, but we're talking about $15 for just the disposal, not the haul from the home to the or the business to the landfill or the transfer station. So I think that's the difference that you're seeing.
Well, we pay out here, we pay Valley Vista to collect our garbage. In California City, I think we pay Waste Management to pick up our bins. So are you saying that on my property tax, I should not see a fee for bins since I pay Waste Management to do that? Or
do you pay Waste Management directly?
Yes.
Okay, then you just would have the either $875 currently, or I'm sorry, the 105 or the 180. If it's approved, it would be 180, and then you would not see the haul fee on your tax bill.
Right. Okay.
But
you see my concern. It's like when I saw the numbers and the big difference, and I'm like, wow, that from $3.51 to $180 is something that just kind of like went, okay, what am I getting for $180?
You're getting the disposal and diversion of all of the garbage that you put. So $15 pays the county to handle all of that waste, not to get it from your place of business or your home to the landfill.
Okay. It'd be nice if we could generate some income from some of that organic waste stuff.
Well, we'll try. There's going to be a lot of compost out there, so we're hoping ours will be clean enough to actually get someone to take it, and maybe we can make a little bit of money on the way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I see someone with the last name Gamage.
Is that me?
Gamage?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead with your question.
Hi. So I actually have about 6 points. I was a little bit in touch with Tony before via email. So there were some really good ideas from the other participants here. What about if for like an extra income, for example, could be, I don't know if you can use the compost to, for example, put up a garden and grow food. I don't know, maybe there's a community interest.
Yes.
That's just kind of an idea. The other thing is, what about reducing the days of operation of the landfills and cut down the costs that way, or pay per dump, pay per volume of the dump? So everyone is actually incentivized to use it less and generate less trash. What about these ideas? And then I have 3 other points.
I agree with you. We have such a massive illegal dumping problem here in Kern County to have everyone pay at the gate, which is honestly what most waste facilities are, is that you pay as you go across the gate. There has been this history since 1989 of people being able to enter the landfills, for residents being able to enter the landfill at no additional charge. It's covered on your tax bill. That our figure is that the illegal dumping would really escalate even to a larger situation, more severe situation than it already is. So that's why it's done the way that it is.
What about less operating days?
We tried that during the pandemic. There was a massive outcry. When the pandemic began, we had to shut some facilities. We simply didn't have the staff to run some of our facilities, and I will tell you, the community lost their minds. They were extremely hostile. They were extremely threatening. They threw stuff on the side of the road. They were very angry. It did not work out well for us. It was a sad statement, to be honest with you. So this community did not have an appetite for less service.
What about a smaller time window each day?
Same exact thing. Same exact thing. Where they're clamoring basically for the landfills. They close at 4 right now. They close at 4 because we have to get all the garbage covered by the end of the day. You can't leave it uncovered. And so that means our contractor has to work a couple more hours to get things buttoned up. But what we hear is that people want us to leave it open more hours than less. But I agree with you. I do agree with you, but the community has voiced a big outcry.
Okay. All right. So the other 3 things I have, actually 4. Was it actually somehow documented how less organic waste actually minimizes the methane, whatever fumes? Is this somewhere documented? Because as others have said, it kind of should take care of itself.
I can't debate the validity of the law. We're just here to comply. You can find a lot of this information on the Cal Recycle website and see what their thought process is. I absolutely agree with you. I think the legislation is ridiculous, but again, I think a lot of stuff is ridiculous, but I still have to do it. And so our job here is to comply and to make sure that our facilities remain open and don't get closed down by the state for non-compliance.
Okay, so you don't have that documentation yourself?
I mean, we have the documentation in the bill, you know. I mean, that's all we have in the law now. So.
Okay. And then I have asked Tony that before via email. So the bill says that it should be reduced by 50% by 2020, and then by 75% by 2025. So it sounds like And then Tony, I think, replied with that it wasn't over the entire state or something. And I couldn't quite, I don't feel like got an answer. So did Kern County actually achieve those 50% reduction by 2020?
Hi, this is Tony. Can you hear me?
Hi, Tony. Yes,
Hi.
I can hear you.
How
Hi.
you doing? Hi. Just to speak on, first of all, I can get you some information on what the state had put together regarding their justification for the methane reductions from the landfill. It's got something called a SHRIA. I can get that to you. The other thing is we have to remember that the 50% and the 75% goals are state goals. They're state, we'll call them goals or mandates. What they're trying to do is reach those mandates through implementation of programs, and the program implementation is a choice by each jurisdiction. So each jurisdiction most jurisdictions will have a 3-container system, but as far as reaching the goal, there will be measurements, ongoing measurements at the landfills that we have to report back to the state on how much organic waste is actually still being disposed of. Now, they don't act on that, but they're collecting the data. So they are making us do all of these things to actually add accountability to the system, and they're also making sure that there's enforcement in place, which is something different than before. Before it was semi-voluntary on what we were doing and trying to reach recycling goals. Now it's a mandate, and they're with enforcement. So that's the difference. Now, if you're asking specific, did we meet our goal? We never actually had to measure that situation. They never did. The state did not reach the 50% goal in 2020. So they imposed even more rules on commercial entities. So they brought in more of the commercial entities that fell into something called mandatory commercial recycling and mandatory organics recycling. So they're doing it through a methodical implementation of programs and gathering more and more entities and people into the regulations to try to minimize their organics and thus their global warming issues.
So they put some wording in the bill, but they actually never enforced whether it came to fruition or not. Is that correct?
Yes, they're still trying to reach those goals.
Okay. So based on that behavior, it doesn't seem like they're very rigid about it.
It is turning. So in other words, what they're trying to do is go statewide with this. Each jurisdiction, say in San Francisco, they have different recycling programs compared to what we had here. And they implemented programs there, and they reached certain goals for themselves. But again, this is a statewide goal, and they still haven't reached it. And again, it's the methodology that they're putting in place to try to reach these levels of decrease in organic waste. It's not like they're still not going to be able to, even if we tell them how much organic waste is being buried, you still have to check everything. In other words, you can't just check, let's say, what's coming from the curb versus what's coming to the landfill as a cell haul. They're still never going to really know.
Okay. And and then the exact math behind it, I know you've emailed over some files to me, but I opened those, I don't even know what I'm looking at. So I personally would be interested in that someone connects the dots for me as to how this fee comes to life, why that number based on which number is prior, how did many of the smart heads at your department come up with this number exactly, explained to like a 5-year-old, so I can actually comprehend it and know why I'm paying for that, and get a better understanding. Because the slides that were presented, they show numbers, but they're numbers, and I don't know where they're coming from. I personally want to be able to comprehend that figure. And does it have? Is there padding in there, or I just need to know how you guys arrived at that figure. And I know this cannot be done right now, but yeah, I would like to understand that in detail and on what exactly it's based on.
We can continue our dialogue, and I can get you some more information, and I can walk you through the information that I did send you, and I will help you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I will personally think about more ways to kind of reduce these things. I mean, I know Lynn mentioned that smaller time windows didn't help and less days didn't help. I don't know if there's something that we could do to mitigate illegal dumping, which would actually be cheaper than try to not cover the cost of it. I don't know if there's something that, I mean, yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions. Mr. Crawford, were you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, I believe so. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, well, I might sound a little unconventional, but I think sometimes that's needed and necessary. I'm going to be somewhat general, but first of all, I know it's not, you guys can't handle certain things or make certain decisions, but we have to be aware that the people are the ones who are in control of America, according to the Constitution. People are not, the president cannot tell a governor how to run a state. A governor cannot tell a county how to run their jurisdiction. According to the Constitution, it depends on the people. And the people who are in charge of those things must really look into things. Why are they raising the rates so high, like 80% a year? That's just ridiculous. There's other ways of doing it. And also this thing about, I think it's headed toward the carbon tax that they want to start imposing on the whole world. We have to question their laws or mandates. Mandates are not laws, for one. They are not laws. And the people can rise up against that. And I feel that most people, everyone, do not want to pay an 80% increase in their waste management bill. So I'm just saying we have to stand up, not you guys per se, but the County Board of Supervisors have to stand up and say, where did you get your information from? We have to get our own information. Just because they tell us this or that or the other, we cannot just say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. We need to check, verify, and see what is the real reality, not what some politician may have said. Because just in case you didn't know it, sometimes they do lie blatantly.
I've noticed.
Yeah, so I'm saying that not you guys, but the Kern County Board of Supervisors, they did sue the state because of some money that they were going to be losing. Well, they need to stand up for us, the citizens, and not let these bureaucrats make these crazy laws that really don't make much sense. And there are other ways of doing things. That increase doesn't have to come all at once. I don't know, maybe you can sue them or petition them to give us the we need to get information to back up what they say, why we need to do this, get a certain percentage of reduction in our waste or whatever. We need to get some verification ourselves and not use their people and their figures. So I'm just saying we need to stand up. We cannot let these bureaucrats ruin our lives and take our money. A businessman would not he would find some way to improve his business. Politicians, they raise taxes only. So I'm just saying we have to find other ways. We cannot comply with some of these unconstitutional mandates and policies. They are not laws. Anyway, I just want to put that out there.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
Can I add, before you close down on us?
Oh, no, please tell us your name, sir. I just see your phone number.
My name is Donald Zajac. I've been listening to this whole thing, and my question to you, or to you guys, is all of this infrastructure. I hear the millions, and I'm not going to read through all the all of that, but I understand that. But what is that strictly for the land, or this is the separation? And are there going to be in this infrastructure? Are you having to create equipment that is going to be able to do work at these landfills, or is it for the land? What kind of give just an overview of what all is this going to be developing? And the reason I'm asking that is I'll back off a little bit. I know in the dairy industry they have what's called ponds, and they take the methane gas and they generate. So if it's going to be increasing with structured facilities, not just dozers and people moving mounds of sorting and the sorting equipment, there's going to need to be power used for all of this, I'm sure. And I know you guys have looked at all that, but why? I mean, when we're saying organic, that is actually good, correct? I mean, it's not bad materials, and so if it's creating methane gas, why can't that gas be used? I know there's generating systems that come from over other countries that they actually use to generate at dairies. That technology is there. Is that something you guys are looking at? Like we understand solar and being able to produce electricity, but is there going to be more electricity usage at the waste facilities, and is all of this as far as we move forward, if this comes to fruition?
Actually, sir, yes, we are getting ready to put out a request for proposals for companies to take our landfill gas to convert it to either a usable gas or electricity. So we are working on that.
Okay, because then you can just generate your own power to run the facility, right? And that should cut our costs. Ultimately, it should trickle down back to the residents, is what I'm asking, far as do what they're trying to accomplish.
That is the hope. I mean, it would hopefully cut the cost of some of the power that we have, our costs there. But to answer your question about what this fee increase would cover, there's a lot of things. Yes, it is equipment. It is new technologies. It is for an additional compost facility. It is for the increased costs that we're paying to Mount Vernon and the other facilities that we use. All of the composting facilities here in the metro Kern County area. Yes, there's more labor costs. This is expensive legislation, and I agree, it's unpopular, and I'm not sure it's proven, but we have to comply because we need to run our facilities, and to run our facilities, they have to be in compliance. We don't want to be shut down and then have to have our waste go to another county and pay exorbitant cost because we've got that huge transport cost. So that's why we're trying to balance it. And I appreciate we do need to capture our landfill gas and do something with it. We did have a contract that fell through on that, and so we're gearing up with another company, and maybe we can make that happen. Electricity was a no-go for our main facility because of the air district we're in. So we had to work through those issues. They could not get permitted to do the work they needed to do based on emissions for the air quality. So we're starting back over on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a Johnny Faddis. If you can unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you the question that I just said, just heard from this gentleman before me about the methane, because a lot of city of LA's dumps and even waste management has those facilities that they're recycling the methane and making electricity out of them when they go through a unit. And
Yes.
also the city of LA does a lot of recycling of themselves just from the green waste that's brought to their facility. Then they grind it up and cure it and sell it. And I don't understand why doesn't Kern County do the same thing?
Chuck, you want to take this one?
Sure, we do. We grind and sell material to biomass plants. We do have those grinding operations. We have those processing operations. We're currently, this is an increase in the amount of material that we have to take out of the landfill and have to capture before it gets disposed. Last year in the organic recycling world of that grinding thing that you're thinking of down there, we did about 250,000 tons of material that had to be ground, sorted, shipped, composted, that type of thing. And what we're looking at is having to increase that by 100,000 to 200,000 more tons a year, which is the increase from the structures, the facilities, the infrastructure, the equipment, everything necessary to be able to process that additional material. So yeah, we do grind it and we do sell it to biomass plants, that the quality materials that they need. There's a lot of it that doesn't meet that spec that has to go somewhere else, but we try to find the best bang for the buck in the material types as they go through.
How about all the farmers that are down in all over Kern County? They can use all that composting also.
And that is exactly the plan. That's why one of the things we are building is a new compost facility in the valley so that we can make that compost locally and sell it to the farmers once that facility is operational. But that's a $20 million facility that has to be built.
Yeah, because to raise something up 80% is a lot of that's a big raise. And I don't understand why you do, and the Kern County actually is not even that big.
It is a big increase. I do appreciate that.
Also, can you clarify what a transfer site is here?
Yes. So our landfills are where the hole is basically. They back up and put the garbage in the hole and cover it up. And so when you're at a transfer station, it's just you can think of it as a convenience station. So you bring your garbage there. It is not disposed of there. It is transferred out to one of our 7 landfills, and then it's processed there. They do separating there and transfer, recyclables from there, but the garbage is buried at one of our landfills.
Yeah, because on our transfer site where we're at, the recyclable is probably recycled out of it only about 5%, maybe 10% if they're lucky.
Well, you guys gonna need to do better than that.
Yes.
The governor's not gonna like that. You got to get that number way up.
And that is waste management again.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let me see who I haven't called on. I see a lot of phone numbers, so I'm just going to ask Try not to talk over each other, but if you have a question that hasn't been answered, if you can unmute yourself and ask that question.
Hi, this is Lynn Black.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm Kern County. I live out in Boron, and I have to say thank you very much for finally opening our dump back during COVID. We live on the far reaches of Kern County, and there is nothing close to us to take anything.
Yes.
So we definitely appreciate that you are keeping the Boron station open. And I did notice that, like, when they collect the green grass, you know, when we take ours to the dump, because I don't pay for bin service. I don't pay for anybody to pick my trash. I take my trash to the dump because I do pay for it in my property taxes. You know, I've gotten flat tires from using the dump in my vehicles, but I'm not to complain about that. That's not, you know, that's just part of doing business sometimes. But the compost, like for the green waste, I see that they chip it up there. I do like how you guys have it organized up there now. I like how you separate. I like how you're actually recycling and using the bins for the cardboard and the metals and things like that. So I think, you know, the implementing that you guys have done in Boron has been a great improvement. But like selling that compost back, like when you guys chip it up to the public, I have gardens. Instead of, I don't have grass in my yard. I use the chips from when I chip my trees up, but I could always use more. And it would be good if you could sell that back to the public.
Good. Thank you very much. Perfect. Is that your last question?
Yeah, that was my question, basically, is selling it back to the public, making that available for us to use and repurpose.
Yes, ma'am. Next question, please.
This isn't really a question or anything. Just a suggestion. I do remember reading years back about a composting facility. I think it was either Wisconsin or in Milwaukee, in Michigan, where they were actually is basically a long tube, if you will, that you put all the stuff in at one end, and by the time it makes it to the other end, it's actually compost. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or not. It was primarily used for roadkill, so, but they also put a lot of other organics in there. But it was, it had a daily rotation of 2 or 3, and it you know, it's kind of like a cement mixer with the flutes in there and everything. It was just a suggestion. So,
Chuck, are you familiar with what he's speaking of?
I'm not sure if he's talking about the bags that they were using. They had these 100-yard bags that they would fill, and the bags were what were doing it. And there were also anaerobic digestion systems that they were using for animal composting, where they would mix it with other organics. It was really trying to get the proteins out so that they could recapture the gas. I'm familiar with both of those. I'm not sure exactly which one was the Wisconsin issue, but we've evaluated both of those options.
Okay. It was like the, you know, your home composters that you have to turn over every once in a while. It actually turned it, and it went down a long, huge pipe, you know, like maybe a 20-foot wide pipe that it went through there. And maybe Wisconsin, I think it was Wisconsin, they actually have a lot more roadkill because they have a lot more deer in the roads and stuff like that up there. And I think it was primarily roadkill that was being used for that. So anyway, thank you guys for being here with us.
Thank you. Anyone else have any more questions for us?
Lynn, if I could speak to Steve Townsend and Ken Burton again. They made some comments on the Kern County Board of Supervisor options, which are last paragraph on section 1. I'd like to echo my concerns with that. First concern being that we're not using the correct consumer price index, and I believe it was Steve raised that issue and identified that there is one for Kern County. And Ken Burton also mentioned the the 5-year plan, and that really sounds to me like we're giving the Board of Supervisors a 5-year blank check to raise the rates anytime they want without our participation. And that concerns me. If we have an issue where we would like to protest this, most of what I see on here is reasonable and believe that you have done a fine job with this. But there are a few points on here that I dislike, and that causes me concern. If I make a protest, does it protest the entire document, or do we have the ability to protest only sections?
It protests the entire document.
I have a second question. I believe it was Tony was talking about the plastic bags. Can he clarify that again? If we look on the state website, the state website says that the 10-cent plastic bags for grocery stores is actually kept by the grocers. We're not seeing any return on that.
That's what I had mentioned. I thought that it would stay with the grocery stores because I haven't seen any money coming back from anything like that. So,
okay, that's our understanding too. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you there. Then the last question I have is, you mentioned at the end of your documentation here that the department has been working very hard at this. Can I ask what the process was? Was this all done in-house by Kern County people, or did you hire third-party consultants to assist you with this documentation and with your planning?
Yes, we did. We did hire H&H Consulting, a waste consulting firm, and they helped us with the organics and some of our hauler agreements as well. And we did a lot of work on our own, a lot of verification on our own, a lot of study on our own, all of our site visits on our own. We did a lot. I mean, we've been working consistently since 2018 to come up with this. And I did want to speak to, the concern of the 5-year, and I want to explain it a little bit. And that's something that I do need feedback on. We put a CPI on it. To do one of these 218s cost us a lot of money. These mailers that go out, we spend several $100,000 getting mailers out to the community. And so if you put the CPI, it doesn't mean they can raise it up to whatever they want. That means the most that they could do is put a CPI on it. They don't have to do that. I mean, it can't be any more than that. And it can be less than that without doing these mailings. So when we do this, it's just in an effort to try to save several $100,000 a year. Otherwise, we need to do it each and every year.
5 years still seems like too long of a period for me. I would say that 2 years would be a more reasonable alternative.
And I accept that. I accept that feedback. Thank you very much.
And then can I add just one more thing about where people are mentioning this Bakersfield CPI? If you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's the Bakersfield page isn't actually a series ID for a CPI. It actually uses a CPI from the Pacific cities. It's not actually a formal series ID. It still references the same series ID that we have listed on that flyer. So if you go to that page, you'll see they'll tell you how to get the information, and that's exactly where it comes from.
And the last question I had was the funding and the allocation. When you guys were making your initial evaluations and you were hiring consultants, is there some place where we can see a breakdown of that as to how much was spent on consulting fees? In my experience, we find that a lot more money is spent on lawyers and consulting fees, and not enough money is spent, or not enough money is invested by your time and effort, and there's not enough consideration for your expertise in doing the project. I think we tend to hand out a lot of stuff when we should be doing it in-house.
I can absolutely, I'm going to give you my email address, and if you will send me an email, then I can send you how much we spent on the consultants for this process, so I can be completely transparent. It's Brooks, BROOKS the letter L, at kerncounty.com. And I'll be happy to share that. And anyone else that has any questions that didn't get answered, or if you want a copy of the PowerPoint, or if you want a copy of this meeting, be happy to send that to you.
Thank you. That's the end of my question.
Anyone else?
Yes, could you give your email address again?
Yes, ma'am. Brooks, BROOKSL at kerncounty.com.
Thank you for the work that you've done.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's. I know it's an unpopular topic, and so I know it's difficult. I know it's not a great time in our world to be raising rates, and I do want you to know that we've worked very hard and we are open to other ideas, and appreciate all the feedback that we got from you guys.
Can you hear me? My name is James Dietzel.
Yes, James, I can hear you.
Oh, great. I wanted to thank you all for staying late tonight and for being there, and also just for doing your job. I live in Lake Isabella, and of course we have to do our own fire, basically abatement. And so if I have a tractor, I use the same thing to disc under all the green waste and everything. And we've got our trash down now to like maybe 15 gallons every week or two. I'm not trying to put you out of business, but I'm just saying what's being done to encourage people to reduce like that, not just green waste, but other trash, because one thing about landfills is they do get filled. So I think it would be great to encourage people to not fill them and to do a better job. And also, I understand the land use fee may be the only tool the county has, but would it be possible to do a point of sale fee, just like they do on lumber and motor oil and everything else for the things that are a problem, you know, the cardboards, the packaging and everything else, where actually you'd be paying for the disposal up front?
That is a great idea, and I appreciate that. To speak to your first question about bin size, basically is what you're talking about. And if we can get a handle on our illegal dumping, I think it is the next step for us to offer a cart size and a fee that is commiserate with that cart size. And so moving into the future, that is definitely something that we need to do. At this point, we don't feel comfortable doing it because we have so much illegal dumping that we're just trying to get a handle on that. And we feel like if we offer a very small cart, people will jump on that and then put garbage on the road like they're doing, but it may be way worse. So we're going to try to get a handle on this. The fees are just going to be rolling in for that, and hopefully you'll see a marked improvement in illegal dumping. We've got a few new programs we're going to roll out this spring, actually in January, for illegal dumping education, trying to get the communities involved. And so hopefully we can turn this corner and get people in the right mindset not to do it, and then we can start offering other options for waste disposal.
Well, and it's not just your problem, it's everybody who lives in the county's issue. I mean, it's all our responsibility. And of course, we also there's a self-interest part in not wanting to carry a bunch of stuff to the dump all the time. But I know you guys want to go home, so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate everyone's participation. Have a wonderful night.